Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. Minnesota, the latest to bear witness to the American mass shooting madness. This time at a Catholic grammar school, K-8, targeting kids during mass. Lone gunman, 19 victims, 2 kids dead, 8, 10 years old. Horrible. The more we learn about who did this, the more familiar it all becomes. What is the latest? Let's begin there. NewsNation's national senior correspondent, Brian Entin, live outside the Annunciation Catholic Church. That's where the shooting was during Mass. Brian.
Yeah, Chris, I heard your conversation with Elizabeth. We do cover too many of these, but this one just feels worse, I think, because it involves so many children and because it was the second day of school and because they were in Mass when this happened. 19 victims, 2 children killed, 8-year-old killed, a 10-year-old killed. You've got 17 other kids who were badly injured in the hospital. There's some elderly people who were injured. All of these people were inside at Mass when this happened, when this gunman showed up. Didn't actually go inside, from what we can tell, at least didn't shoot inside. They didn't find any shell casings in the church, but went to the windows, went to the outside windows and started shooting inside and shot the kids that way. And apparently may have had some premeditation because there are reports that the doors were boarded up almost to prevent the kids from being able to get away, which is just awful to think about. The shooter identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman, formerly went as Robert, changed the name from Robin to Robert back when the shooter was 17 years old, had to do a whole name change. And there's this YouTube manifesto, Chris, that was on YouTube for a short time today. YouTube was very, very quick to take it off, but it's still circulating around. It's terrible to watch. It's a video, and you can see the shooter sort of, they've got all the guns out and the ammo, and on some of the different weapons, there's things that the shooter wrote, things like, for the children, kill Donald Trump, and where is your God? And he had a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. And police, Chris, say that the gunman used all 3 of those weapons during this rampage. Chris?
And have you heard anything about the shooter's family, his life circumstances, in terms of who knew that this level of depravity was in this guy's life? Because it doesn't seem like much of a secret.
Well, it appears that the shooter's mother at one point worked at the church. And the shooter also graduated from this Catholic school when he was 17 years old. So had a connection to the school. And again, looking through the manifesto, just dark thoughts, stuff I don't even want to repeat on TV, but also clearly in a depression, said that he was depressed. Said that, everybody should just forget about me, apologized to his friends and family and said, I know the pain that I've caused, but was clearly in a very, very bad mental state.
I got to tell you, you have to look at these things and try to find your way through them in some sense of sanity. Had he entered the church, who knows what would have happened. As horrible as this was, there is a grace, a mercy in him having said, stayed outside. Brian, thank you very much. Get in my ear if there's something we have to know. I'll come back to you. Okay? Thank you very much for being on scene.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate you and the team being there. The church is called the Annunciation, by the way. The Annunciation is Catholic liturgy about the catechism, about the announcement from the Archangel Gabriel to Mary that she was going to give birth to Jesus. And it is a very powerful idea in Catholicism, and it does raise another question for us about this, if you don't believe in any coincidences, which is, what level of deliverance will it take for us to believe in getting to a better place when it comes to how our society functions? Because this is only us, and we're the only ones who would ever do as little as we do. Brian, you're the best. I want to bring in a man named Vincent right now, okay? He's a father, and that's why I want him on, and I got to tell you, I'm amazed that Vincent has the strength to be with us tonight. I'm sure he's home because that's where his 11-year-old is. Chloe, 6th grader at that Catholic school, survived the shooting by putting into practice the worst part of our kids' education these days, which is knowing what to do during an active shooting. And she ran and she barricaded herself and she survived, thank God. But Vincent, I got to tell you, you are a stronger man than I, being able to be upright and functioning right now when you must be just overwhelmed at what happened and that you got your daughter back.
Yeah. I just feel like people need to know what we're going through because, yeah, it's been a tough day. But, one thing that I told my wife a year ago, so just to back up, I'm from France. I've been here for a number of years, but I told her 1 year, say, every time you drop your kids in the school, you just don't know if you're going to see them again. And God forbid it happened today. Actually, I'm not right now. I am at a friend house, and a lot of family gathered from the school. So we're very lucky. It's such a great community. It's just, it's dreadful. The kids seems to be almost coping better than the parents right now, but we will see what in the next future,
They've seen a lot less of this, and they have a lot less of an idea of how fragile life is. What was Chloe's reaction when you got her home? What were her questions? What did she say?
So on the way, so we live 3 blocks from the house, and she just right now, just to back it up, we just came back from France, and sometimes we joke we're gonna move back, and she never wanted to do it. And the first thing that she said on the way home said, "I want to move back to France. I don't want to go to school." Then when we got to home, I had to take our dog for a walk, and she didn't want me to get out of the house, and so we had to say, "Okay, we're safe." And she started to lock everything in the house, close all the windows. And then we just trying to take it like a minute by a minute. And she made us promise that we won't hide anything from what happened today, which she did. At that time, we didn't know there was 2 other kids, fellow, who got killed. And we found out on the news with Chloe. And then we drove here, and she just, we walk into the street and someone was delivering a package, and she was like, "Who is this?" So she's in a state of complete fear right now, traumatized, and we just don't know right now. It's we don't know. We're gonna take this one day at a time. The great community of the Annunciation. Right now I'm downstairs, but upstairs there's kids. Everybody is trying to cope the way we can. It's like a small village in a big city. We do a lot of things together and go on vacation together. And so the kids, are the one who saw too many things today. And we just getting ready for a long night because it's going to be tough.
Long night, long days to come. But obviously, you're going to have to figure out how to explain to her how she's one of the lucky ones. Let me ask you something as a Frenchman.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk tonight after we're done about why this keeps happening here. What is it about us? As a man who understands being an American and being a Frenchman, what do you see when you look at American society in the context of what you're living through right now?
Okay, it could be a long conversation, but this idea of waving the flag every time, and this you go to gathering, and freedom is not free, and this gun thing, and this kind of over patriotic thing at the end, and this gun thing. I'm not against gun owner. If people want to have gun, if some people feel safer with that, but it's gotta be controlled, and it's a fact. I want to tell everyone, know that every time you're going to drop your kids in this country, you are not sure if your kid's going to come back alive. It's just a fact of the matter. They can hide it. They can twist it again. Politicize the Democrat, the Republican, they're all in it, everybody. And the money is what is make this thing wrong. And so and what people don't understand is the rest of the world are looking at us, because I'm American, by the way, I do say, and they're scratching their head off, and they're like, what the hell's going on? What's so much violence, and tonight we're going to get a lot of prayer, we're going to get a lot of thought. You know what? As the mayor said, these kids were praying, so let's stop the prayer, let's stop the thought. We got to stop the hypocrisy. And so tomorrow,
I'm with you. Listen, I understand it, Vincent.
Beautiful.
I understand it. I understand what you're saying, and you have every right to have the platform to say it, because there but for the grace. And whoever thought that we would have to talk about the grace of God in allowing your child to escape a shooting at their church. But that is an extension of grace in the society we're living in right now. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to help your family or your daughter move through this. If there's anything you can think of, I am a call away. That's all I can offer.
Thank you. We are a lot of family in this situation right now. It's just, Minneapolis is a great city. Minnesota is a great state. I love America as much. Unfortunately, there is some big issue that are not being looked into it since a decade of different president, different administration. And I don't know what is the answer. And we were in France about 3 weeks ago, and my daughter started to cry when we jokingly tell her that we will move back here. And on the way back, she said, I want to move back to France. And, I love America, and I love Minneapolis. And just tell everyone that Minneapolis is a great city, because I can't see with who we are governed now. It's going to be another game of blaming this. The shooter was a sick person. How someone can get the gun like this. Do you know what I mean?
And how somebody can be that sick and that obvious, and we get to this point. How when we're supposed to be in the age of see something, say something. Vincent, God bless you and the family. Let me know if I can help. I mean it. I'll call you right after the show, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. So your heart breaks. You shake your head. You listen to politicians say nothing or say things that'll lead to nothing. My question is this. What is acceptable in America? It's easy to list a bunch of idealistic virtues, but we only know what we show, and we accept a lot of what should be unacceptable. Poverty, perfidy, and our signature perversity. Mass shootings like today. No one allows deranged people with untreated or unreported mental illness to just flounder their way through society, to access weapons, posting proof of their threat online and in their daily lives, and then they kill those we say we care for the most. So we do the least to prevent the death of those we say matter the most. No one accepts this on the planet the way we do. Unless a lot of people die, or the killer or the killing has some new wrinkle, we don't even really cover these shootings that much anymore, because all of us move on so fast and nothing changes. But we're talking about this tonight. And of course he's right. Minnesota's a great place. America is filled with great places, and this could happen anywhere. None is immune. And yes, killing little kids at Catholic school, attending Mass, is about as disturbing a version of this as I can imagine. Not as a political story, because the parties are deadlocked. They see this as either more guns or less guns, and they're not going to compromise. And we know why. Because the rest of us don't care enough, apparently, for anything more than that standoff. And look, you can say what you want. Wait, what about the shootings in Chicago? Those are rarely done by deranged young white men with mental illness. Of course, the killings do share a critical factor. we don't really care about either type of killing if you think about it. Not measured as, do you do anything to stop it? No. They bring up Chicago, but they don't do anything to show you want to send the National Guard? Really? I respect the president wanting to get involved with fighting crime. Good for him. He should interface with these local leaders so it's not like it's being done to them, it's being done with them. And it can't just be about the National Guard. The military is untrained. It is an unsophisticated, short-term experiment. And you can't, what are you going to have, National Guard at every school, every church all over the country? Look, it sounds absurd to me, but at least it would be doing something. And right now we do nothing. And I don't know how you can argue in favor of the status quo. And I agree with Vincent. I don't think we'll hear as many calls for thoughts and prayers after this one because these little kids were actually praying at Catholic Mass when they were gunned down. So it's a little bit of a bad look. And no, I'm not anti-thoughts and prayers because I'm anti-God or anti the power of prayer. But what is the point of prayer? Why do you go to church? Why do you pray? Why do you meditate? Intentionality. Why? To direct, to focus, to motivate what? Action. Being better. That's why you do it, right? What are the two prayers? Help me, help me, help me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right? They are motivational. Thank you, Almighty, for the grace, for the forgiveness, for the wretched sinner that I am. Help me be better. We don't do that. Praying is a precursor of what you want to do, and here we don't. Some on my team hope that these kids and the setting will make this one different. I don't know. I guess you can look at this and say, wow, those could have been my kids. That's how it was at Sandy Hook. Plenty of kids involved there, young ones, mutilated in ways I still see in my nightmares to this day. And nothing changed. And I'm not just talking about a gun law. Guns obviously matter, and if you don't think they do in this equation, it's because you don't want them to. But there's so much else that isn't even discussed, let alone acted on. In fact, in a bill that's known for being the big, beautiful bill, did you know that among the cuts, you know, on top of affecting poor people and their ability to eat and get health care, mental health services took a hit as well? How? How? So, I'll tell you the truth. I'll be transparent and honest. That's what you guys want, right? I'm not sure what to do with these shootings anymore. Just report the facts. Just tell people what's going on. You know, people want to know. Really? You didn't hear of this? We're in an information-saturated society. The facts are everywhere. Yeah, a lot of people get them wrong. But, you know, we know the scenario so well. I bet many of you could have guessed everything we're learning about this shooter. All right, maybe the trans thing threw you a little bit. Not only can I not really tell you anything that wasn't figured out within hours, you know, it's no small irony. You know the one thing that's gotten better because of all these shootings? Our ability to report them out quickly. I guess practice creates progress, right? We haven't learned anything else. We haven't tried to change anything else, but we can report them out like that now. Because it's not about the facts. They come fast enough. It's about how you feel about those facts or how you don't feel. And in that way, most in the media reflect what's going on. We shrug. We shrug. Why? Because we all avoid the only aspect to this that matters. It's not what, where, when, how. You can get that anywhere, but none of it matters. We don't want to touch why. And I don't mean why this particular person did this. We only want to know motives so you can weaponize them, right? Oh, trans. Oh, bad for the left. You know, or you find, oh, hates Catholics. He's an evangelical. And that's not true, by the way, but that's the kind of thing we look for. Why? Bad for the right. One side's got to be worse. These are ways to excuse inaction. And you know what? It works. Do you think we'll be talking about this after the weekend? Do we care enough to do anything about it? I don't think so. I'm not even sure reporting on these does not do more harm than good. This guy was clearly a copycat, had a thing for tracking school shooters. I've always felt that whatever power of suggestion something as horrible as this could have on somebody who wants to repeat it, that it would have a much bigger impact on the rest of us who want to see it never happen again. But I think I'm wrong. I think I'm wrong. Now, I know one thing I'm right about, the right question. Why us? Nobody else on the face of the planet. And if anybody tells you something else, like, oh no, a lot more of these happen in Indonesia or wherever, never trust that person again. I think the best answer is that it happens to us more here because we don't do anything to stop it from happening. That's why. Because it doesn't matter enough to enough of us. Change is hard, especially positive change. And it's much easier to just twist facts, play gotcha, and deal with memes, and just prove the other side is worse than attempt to make anything better. It's a low bar, my brothers and sisters. And that bar gets you elected. And all that matters in our politics seems to be getting into power and keeping it. And stopping kids from getting gunned down in church is not as motivating as free bus fare or knowing your daughter is free from the horror of competing against a big trans athlete. Think about that. There's more chatter about the shooter being trans than there is about how to stop the shootings. Now you can say, oh, come on, look, these are terrible, but in terms of overall gun violence, it's a really small percentage. It is. It's like a decimal point type of percentage. Now, there's a counter. Almost 400,000 kids in our country have been affected by gun violence while at school since Columbine. And I was there. It's like months we were dealing with that. No other country sees what we do. And when you combine, now here's my counter to the counter. It's not a big enough deal. What's the #1 gun crime in America? Suicide. When you combine these with those, now you have the majority of gun deaths. And they are very much related in terms of what we are doing to keep track of one another and help those who need it and identify those who aren't getting that help. Like this shooter, who I guarantee you was no secret to people in his life. That's what we should be talking about. That's what we should be concerned about. And you know as well as I do that unless everybody decides to give a damn, you and I will be back here again. And between then and now, nothing will change. Do I want it to change? Yes. Do you want it to change? I bet you do. Are there enough of us to make it something that someone has to do something about, instead of just saying, well, thoughts and prayers aren't enough. You know, we've got to do something as leaders. This falls on us. Like what? What? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Yellow flag, red flag. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to identify people like this? What are you going to do to mandate treatment of people like this? When are you going to take on the fight of the HIPAA laws? We can't even do it with homeless people who are living in their own filth on the streets. You can't even mandate help for these people for any significant length because of their rights of self-determination. Living in your own filth, so crazy that you're writing things on magazines of weapons and killing kids en masse. It is time to have the fight, if enough of us demand it. Will we? Let's take a break, 4.5 minutes. When we come back, 3 better minds, a clinician I look to understand why there's so many people like this shooter in this society, an investigator to tell us where you look to see what's so obvious, and then a mentor who's been covering this from the beginning to help me understand whether there's any chance anything gets better. So what do you think happens now? Minneapolis, Minnesota, beautiful little community. Added to the list, they haven't had a school shooting there in a decade or so in Minnesota. 2 dead kids, 8 and 10, 17 wounded, attending Mass. Let me bring in some better minds to try to get our hands around what matters in this. Former FBI Supervisory Special Agent James Gagliano, clinical social worker Darcy Sterling, NewsNation correspondent-at-large Geraldo Rivera. Thanks, each and all of you, for coming in to discuss this. Gags, in terms of the familiarity of the murderer in this, why do you think it is so many fit this profile?
Well, Chris, they fit the similar profile like this. They're usually young men, and they're usually disinfected, disenfranchised people. And this, you know, reading through this manifesto, looking at the videos online that were purportedly from this shooter, it seems like a tragic, tragic life. And that's what happens. People become disconnected. And Chris, you and I have talked before about how can law enforcement get out in front of this? I mean, look, the guy had a YouTube channel and he posts these videos. The internet is vast and dark, and obviously there's a limited amount of law enforcement, and to track people down, we have privacy protections and all that in this country. It makes it very difficult to do. But to your point, see something, say something. You mean to tell me that no one that was in contact with this young man at a particular time of his life where he was struggling and writing all these hateful, the screeds, the stuff he placed on the magazines for the weapons, the barrel of the weapons. I mean, he didn't have a hateful ideology for one ideology. He had an ideological bent with so many different people. And that's what we find, Chris. Mental illness usually attached to these. They're sociopaths or psychopaths, and the fact that that hate runs deep.
Hey, Doc, first of all, everybody, you should remember Dr. Darcy Sterling. She is a friend of mine, and she is someone I lean on as a clinician as well as a source. And let me ask you the tough question is, what is it about us? Oh, Vince is calling me back, Chloe's dad. Hey, Vince, I just called you to let you know that I meant what I said. Anything I can do for you guys, I'm a call away. Let me finish the show and I'll call you back, all right?
Well, thank you very much.
All right. Vince, God bless. I'll call you right back. Got to take his call. So the really hard question is this, Darcy. It keeps happening here, and we change nothing. What is the psychological analysis on that?
The problem is, Chris, we can intervene. This is such an easy beginning of a fix. We need to screen for mental illness at every level of our education in school. We need to be, these screenings are so easy to implement. They're inexpensive. They take less than 10 minutes. You know, you bring the kids into the gym, you check them for scoliosis twice in their lifetime. Why aren't we screening for mental health illness? This was not someone who like popped off out of nowhere. This was a critically mentally ill person for a very long time. Of their own words, they struggled with suicidal ideation. And, you know, yes, it is very, very distracting, all the ideology, but ideology is not something, it doesn't permeate people unless they're vulnerable. This was clearly someone, as a former FBI agent mentioned, this is clearly somebody that was likely alone, disconnected, out of relationship, and it's those circumstances that make people vulnerable for this type of information to radicalize.
In your experience, Doc, what is the chance that no one in this person's life had any idea how sideways they were?
Zero.
Right? I mean, that's the part we got to deal with. You can't criminalize it. I'm not saying you got to punish people who don't say something, but you got to know, right? Somebody had to know something, right?
What is our civic responsibility? Did this person have followers on their YouTube account? Of course they did.
Yeah,
so what is our civic responsibility? I mean, you know, all the social media companies, they have the firewalls that they're behind with the laws that we can't sue them. We don't hold them accountable. None of it is their fault. But what about the followers? Like, at some point, the buck has to stop with us.
Geraldo, help me with my cynicism. You know me as a ridiculous optimist, but I don't know what I'm doing with these stories anymore. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with them. You know, well, just report the facts. The facts are everywhere. We get them in like 20 minutes now. It used to take us days to figure that. It's all so familiar. We know where to look. We know who to call. You know, you get all the facts, the who, what, where, when. It's the why. It's whether people care enough. What do you make of these and what we've seen in the evolution or devolution of them as an American story?
You broke my heart tonight, Chris. You're one of my heroes, and it sounded to me that you'd finally said, basta, enough, I can't take it anymore. You can't, we can't, none of us can. But we've got to keep up the struggle. And I think there's a couple of things. I mean, this was a cruel, cowardly, hateful, disgusting, sick individual. I would go on to say more. But then I heard Pope Leo, who spent time in Minneapolis, making sure that everybody knew that not only was he praying for the victims and their families in Minneapolis, but that he was guarding against cynicism, guarding against hopelessness. I think that we'll never get meaningful gun legislation. You're right about that. I was with President Trump on a couple of days after the Parkland school massacre, and he visited with the First Lady the victims in the hospital and described in great detail, sincerely, really deeply touched, how chewed up the survivors were by these heavy weapons in the school. And I said, well, let's pass a juvenile automatic weapons ban. And he said, no, well, we'll see. And ultimately, they did not. They took the NRA position. But we can't give up, can never, ever give up. I think there's two things quickly. One is you've mentioned family responsibility. Now, remember the case of the parents who were held responsible for the school shooting of their child perpetrated. I think that concept of communal responsibility, familial responsibility, we've got to spread that around. And those parents should be questioned very sharply. The friends, the associates, it's a police work to find out who was associated with this sick bastard when he was writing this incendiary shit that he was putting down there. And the other thing is, you've got to have an armed guard in front of the synagogues in New York have it. You've got to have one outside. If there was one outside, maybe he would have stopped this. Those are two things. But we can't give up.
I don't have any problem with that. But I'll tell you, when I went on The View, I'll let you guys go with this. Darcy, thank you. Jimmy, thank you. Geraldo, as always, I appreciate you guys speaking reasonable in unreasonable times. After one of these shootings, I go on The View. I'm at ABC News at the time. And I know I still wanted to talk to them, but that's okay. I love them anyway. And I said, hey, look, if you want to do better, you should have armed security at all the schools and the places that you want to protect the people inside. And I got killed by wanting to, oh, you want more guns? You want, listen, I mean, I own a weapon for one reason, okay? To put a hole in someone that threatens my family if they get inside my house. That's why I own the weapon. That's how I know, why I know how to use the weapon, okay? Yeah, I shoot some skeet. Not the main reason I have it. I believe in security. But the idea, you know what I want to hear from Pope Leo? And I wish him all good things. And it's amazing to me that we have an American Pope. Where is the responsibility on everybody to do better with those around us, to reach out, to not silo, to know what's going on with a guy like this, to say something about it, to be brave enough to be involved, to dare to care? Where is that message? 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Is there policy change that matters? Sandy Hook was an experience that those families, that community will never live past. And I know I have never moved on from it in terms of what I saw that day and how I feel about it. I want to bring in the mother of one of the kids who was taken that day and the police chief who was there and had to process that scene. There are warning signs. There are things to be done. Will we do them? Next. Years ago, we were in front of another school, another beautiful little bedroom community. 20 kids, 26 people overall, but 20 of them between 6 and 7 years old were just massacred at Sandy Hook School in Connecticut. The mother of one of the kids and one of the officers who was first on scene, I wanted to have them come in, as difficult as a day like today is for them, to talk about what they know you can see as a warning sign and what you can do that can make days like today less likely. Joining me now is Chris Van Gilly, Newtown Police Department Lieutenant, and Nicole Hockley, whose 6-year-old son, Dylan, lost his life that day, was stolen that day. Thank you both for joining me. And when you have a day like today, and I'm sure you think every day about your son, but Nicole, how do you process a day like today? And I know you've had many of them because these keep happening.
I don't think there is a way to process a day like today. It's more about understanding how triggered I am and how triggered so many other people are and how heartbroken we all are, and especially knowing that the community is on their day one of a journey that I'm now almost 13 years into. But I also feel a huge amount of anger and outrage that this continues to happen when we know we have solutions that work. So the way I process it, I guess, is by really allowing myself that opportunity to grieve and remember, and then really getting very determined and back into the work, because we know that what we do works and has stopped at least 18 school shootings so far.
I want to talk about that. And also, I'm really happy to have you with me, Lieutenant, because, look, I was there that day. Actually, I think I remember meeting you there that day. And that was one of the worst scenes any of us has ever seen. And the police get a lot of heat on this. Oh, the police have to do this, the police have to do that. And I don't think it's really about the police. I think this is about the community and the level of recognition. And your solutions, Nicole, and how it works is much more holistic than just thinking you can find a guy who puts up a bad video. What works? What do you believe has stopped 18?
Well, what I know works is teaching people how to recognize the signs of someone who needs help, whether that is an early indicator of something like social isolation, marginalization, and rejection, through to suicidal ideation and homicidal ideation. There's a lot of signs that we teach kids and the adults around them what to look for and how to recognize when something doesn't feel right as well, and how to talk to a trusted adult or use an anonymous reporting system. And that system is what absolutely works. Kids are the eyes and ears of their school. Family members are the eyes and ears of what's going on. Friends looking after each other. We all know that really school safety is about building connections and a positive school climate. That's been heavily reported by the Secret Service in the past in their reports on thwarted school shootings. There's a lot we can do. Building connection, recognizing when someone needs help, and having a process and a way to tell someone about it so an intervention can be made is very evidence-based and proven to stop acts of violence, including school shootings.
Yeah, the Columbia Protocol. My friend Dr. Kelly Gerstenhaber Posner has been doing it at Columbia University, teaching people like the lieutenant and like you and like me how to talk to the people who are in their charge. Now, Lieutenant, I feel that the police get pushed into these situations almost like you guys are asked to deal with a riot. All these different ingredients have come together to create a chaos that you now have to control. Do you believe that this is about policing or something else?
Well, Chris, the last time we spoke was about 4 years ago, and it was right after the Uvalde shooting. And between then and now, there have been hundreds of mass shootings like this at schools, churches, and other areas. And us in law enforcement are exacerbated as you are. We're trying to solve this issue. For me, it really comes down to a mental health issue. There are millions of people that are suffering from mental health, and there are millions of weapons on the streets. And you put those two together and you have events like what unfolded today. We're very good at working with our schools, and we're very good at tracking down leads, but we can only track down what we know. Social media has helped in a big respect, because people that do this tend to forecast what they want to do. And we're able then to take those investigative clues and track that person down. But then there are stumbling blocks for us. There's only so much we can do. We deal with mentally ill people every day. We take them to the hospital, usually against their will, and then we walk away. They're usually let out within 12 hours. Sometimes they're held. We can now institute risk protection orders that come from the family members. So if they feel somebody in their household may be mentally ill, we can make certain protections through the court system that don't allow them to have weapons or gain access to a firearm or a permit to carry a firearm. But they're very small steps, and we need big strides to solve this.
Well, but look, we know what it is, and Nicole has it, and it has been put into practice. And it's the hardest thing to do in American society today, which is to get people to dare to care enough to pay attention to the people in their circle, to ask questions, to reach out, and to try to do something to help. The cops can't do it. It's got to be all of us. Everybody's known that. Nicole, thank you for putting it into practice. If we can ever help you with any of the programming that you're doing or what you want to get out, we're a call away. And Chris, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for doing the job and keeping us safe.
Thank you
God
for
bless
caring.
you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, I don't know. Let's talk a little bit. Leland, taking the baton on this story. It's easy to say it's tough, but the question is, will anything change?
I would submit to you probably not, Chris, and that is the problem. But problems are what we are here to solve, what our viewers demand of us. Great show, Chris.